Business leaders understand if they want to make an impact, relationships are the key.
Chaz Wilson is the founder of Master Networks, an expert about relationships and getting people together so they can rise together.
One of the three pillars was the relational pillar. Impactful people, they go find these relationships. They're intentional about seeking them out.
What advice would you give someone so they can bring those people into their lives to rise?
This would be the advice. The foundational thing that keeps it together is agreements.
You talk about seeking out. Where do you do that?
I love the phrase, get in the room where things happen. There was 4 levels of relational growth. On the first level is, that's when you're rising to high level of relational status.
So super excited to have a dear friend of mine on the program today. So we're going to bring him in right now. My dear friend, Chaz Wilson. Great to have you here.
Well, man, so excited. Thank you. I appreciate it's an honor to be with you.
You know, we're going to, I didn't tell him I told him about Master Networks in the introduction there, but I know you've got some other things that you're working on that I definitely want you to talk about. So we'll go into those, but it's so great to have you here because if there's someone that can really talk about how we can all help each other rise to that next level and how important it is and how that's such a big part of our journey would be you. And so as we start off here, the first question I want to ask you is, who has been so significant to you in helping you rise to where you're at today?
Yeah, appreciate the question. I love that you phrased it, who's been significant, because I think that's the higher the level of relationship, the more significant it is. So I'd probably be remiss. I mean, I can think of several people, right? But I feel like God plays a huge part in my life and direction. So certainly my relationship with God. My relationship with my wife, she's so supportive, and it's amazing when you have a spouse that's supportive, that significant other, that you feel sort of indestructible, right? You feel like you can do anything. So she's been amazing, and we've been through some amazing things together too, some real struggles too. And then I had a mentor. His name was Dave. He came into my life about 11 years ago. And just through an email, I reached out to him. I knew who he was, but I had never met him, but in any significant matter. And then he came to my office, and we became friends. And just that he was a huge mentor in my life. Unfortunately, he passed away a couple years ago. And then, man, I've just been fortunate to have a tremendous amount of a really tight circle of people I respect and honor that have supported me.
A lot of people, I had this conversation yesterday where, no, actually it was this morning. I said, if someone came and said, hey, I made it to where I'm at by myself, and there was nobody that was a part of my journey, that no one helped me. And you talk about high achieving entrepreneurs, influencers, people that have large companies. They didn't make it there by themselves. They made it there with the help of other people. And so I know that you want to surround yourself with incredible people that help you rise to certain levels. So let me go back to that question. You mentioned some of the people that have been significant in you rising to where you're at right now and the things that you're working on. What advice would you give someone they could be starting out, the middle of their journey, maybe even towards the tail end of all the things that they're working on? What are some tidbits that they can do so they can be able to surround themselves, bring those people into their lives that allow them to be able to rise to those levels they want to go to?
Yeah. So Christopher, right now I'm in the process of writing my 3rd book called The Impact Effect. And I did the research with my mentor, Dave. Again, I unfortunately passed away, but as we did the research for that book and continued to, one of the things we found with very impactful, influential business leaders, entrepreneurs, is one of the 3 pillars was the relational pillar. Like they understand at a high level, if they want to make an impact in this world, that relationships are the key, right? And you and I talk about this, and I talk about how I'm one relationship away from changing my future and making that impact in the world. And I believe those relationships are key. But so it's interesting. So one of the models in this book, so this would be the advice, probably advice would be when we publish it, go buy the book because we'll teach this. But in the book, I have this model. I actually have 2 we're going to talk about today. I hope. And one of those models, both of them are triangles, right? And it's a visual triangle because on the left side of this triangle, if you can envision it, are the associations, the people you want to build relationships with. And I think impactful people, they go find these relationships. They're intentional about seeking them out. So if you're writing any notes or you're listening to this, you're like, what can I do? Be intentional about seeking out specific people. Go where they go where they congregate, go where they hang out, right? So these associations. Then when you make these associations, you have to affirm those associations. Meaning you affirm that you're building some relationship, right? You've ever met somebody, maybe you did a Zoom call, you met them in a networking thing, you maybe have a quick connection, but then nothing ever happens from that, right? It's because you don't affirm that relationship any further. Now, once you've affirmed a relationship, the foundational thing that keeps it together is agreements, right? So you have associations, you have affirming that association, and then you have an agreement, meaning we operate out of some sort of mutual agreement together, which is how relationships really build. So the advice I would give to somebody is seek out those associations, affirm them, and then have agreements around that relationship. Doesn't mean you have to have formal written contracts. It just means we understand each other, right? We have some sort of, not an expectation, but an actual agreement. My business partners, right? All the partners that I have in my companies, we all have these agreements that we operate on, right? Jordan is an example of one of my business partners. We have this agreement that our families come first. If family calls, right, he needs to go to his family. There's no misunderstanding there. He needs to go do that first. I need to go do that first. So this is how you build these connections and these relationships. And so if you're starting out and you want to be a person of influence and impact and rise, you got to seek out intentional relationships that lift you up.
You talk about seeking out. Where do you do that? I mean, where have you done it? As you've gone along, where is a good place? I mean, I have some ideas, but I'd love to hear your ideas.
Yeah. Probably similar ideas, I would imagine. But I mean, I think what you're careful about is you see people who are or have been where you want to be, right? They are or have been where you want to be, and they have these characteristics both professionally and personally. And so you'll seek them out. You'll look for them. I look for them on social media. I look for them at events. I love the phrase "get in the room where things happen." So I'm constantly trying to get into masterminds, events, and be physically in the presence and be in proximity to people who do amazing things. And when I first started doing that, and maybe somebody listening to this who's on the rise, I think what happens is we often get in these kinds of environments and we think, I don't belong here. I don't belong in this room. Why would they talk to me? All of those kinds of things that I think everyone says, everyone talks about those. Everyone does that, right? It's like, why would they talk to me? Why would they communicate with me? And so I think we've all felt that. But when you get in that presence, I teach a framework called the bond method. Maybe we'll get to that, but maybe another time. But
I was actually going to ask you about that, so feel free. Like I was going to say, after you answer this question, I'm like, I got a great another question I want to ask. Let's talk about the bond method.
Let me stay on this thought because I get a little ahead of myself.
All right,
because I love this idea of building relationships. It's the key to my rise, and will continue to be my rise. But it's getting in those environments where people that you want to connect with and associate with, where they hang out. And that's first and foremost. So I can find them on social media. I follow them on YouTube. I listen to podcasts. I do all that stuff. But then at the end of the day, you got to get in their physical proximity. And so do whatever it takes to get in proximity. When I met Dave, I sent him an email. I used the bond framework, which I'll go through here in a second, and invited him to come connect with me. And he did. He spent 2 days at my office, and then we took the next step and the next, and then it was a 9-year mentoring to colleague kind of relationship. So that won't happen if you don't get in each other's proximity.
Proximity is power. And one of the things we talk about all the time with the things that I do is there's proximity can mean a lot of different things. You covered a lot of them. There's proximity within the digital world that we live in of getting together, socially online, the proximity of getting in the room and going to events. And I think if people use all of those together and combined all that, I think that's when you really, like, from a rise standpoint for me, I always tell people, do this, bring those things together, and explosive things happen because you're bringing all those things together, and you do a really good job at that. Now, you mentioned the bond method, and I was going to ask you that. Yeah, talk to the audience about what that is and how they can use that, because some people, maybe they know they're not the best at this. They struggle with it, but if they had a tool that can help them, it makes it a whole lot easier and they can have a lot greater success.
Oh man. And it came through years and years of failure. In fact, let me tell you where this came from. I had this young banker who kept calling my office, and he would be like, "Hey man, I want to have lunch, want to have lunch." And my assistant, she did an amazing job sort of gatekeeping, right? Like keeping him. And finally she's like, "Man, this guy's resilient. He's persistent. We just go to lunch with him." So we end up going to lunch. He invites me to meet him at Chipotle. Doesn't have a lot to do with this story, kind of. But I mean, from the moment we walked through there, we walked in the door, he started talking about cars. And here's the interesting thing. I grew up where like just a car working was important. I'm not a car guy, but he didn't care to find that out. And so he was just talking about cars all the way through the line, get our food. We sit down. He takes the hot sauce, like grabs the bottle of hot sauce to put on his burrito. And when he sets it down, it hits the tray and shoots towards me and shoots hot sauce all over me. Yeah. Here's the interesting thing. That was the first time I'd ever worn that suit. Like, and it already got hot sauce. I left the table, got napkins, came back. I don't think he even knew I left. Now, while I'm telling this story, I guarantee there's somebody listening. It's like, oh my gosh, I was in that lunch today, yesterday. Like, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And then when we get done and we get ready to leave, he says those magic words. He's like, "We should do this again sometime." And I'm thinking, not on your life, man. There's no way.
I don't have enough suits.
Yeah, exactly. I don't have enough suits. So frustrated. So you know what I'm talking about, right? You've been in those meetings, those lunches, and I've probably been that person on the other end too. But what I realized over time is I had connected with tons of celebrities, athletes, Super Bowl champions, people like that, and business leaders. And I was like, I know there's a method to how I've done this. And I'd never stopped to sort of codify, framework this out. So I called my team on the way back to the office. I'm like, drop what you're doing, hit the whiteboard. We're going to map this out. And what we realized, and it was so, I felt like divine download, divinely inspired in a way, because this bond method, kid you not, and Sarah, who still works with me today, 9-10 years later, we mapped out the bond method. I want to say in about 4 minutes, 5 minutes. Like, it was just there. And then we validated it and have for 10 years, and thousands of people have used this. So here's what it is. It's an acronym, BOND. So it means build on a common interest. What it means is the skill. So when this guy walked in, he should have found out something that we could have talked about, not cars, right? We should have built on something of interest. It takes a little bit of a skill set. Mm-hmm. Then you move to occupation exploration. That's the O. Think about a networking event. People walk up and they go, "Hey, Chris, what do you do?" It's like, let's start somewhere else. Let's build on it. And then we'll go to occupation exploration, meaning tell me about what you do. Why do you do it? How'd you get started? And guys, you could do this at any event, anywhere you go. Just, like, trust me, I use this with all kinds of influencers, and they're people. And if you build on something you have a connection with, you move to that stage of occupation. And then N is needs discovery. And you start to ask questions as you build. What do you need? What are you looking for? How can I help? Well, what keeps you up at night? Who are you looking for? Who are you looking to connect with? And that's all the information you're gathering. And to me, the needs is the one that, like, I spend the most time in, either building on common interest or the needs discovery, because it tells me everything I need to know. And then the last is develop opportunities. Most people are going in with an agenda to develop an opportunity, and I don't. I go in to say, let me build on it. Let me talk about your occupation. We'll get to needs discovery. And if I know of an opportunity, we'll develop it. And it might take 4 or 5 conversations before that happens. But that's the framework and the way you get there.
I love, a lot of people jump in. They're like right for the D. They're going to, they're like, we're just going to go right there. Or maybe they'll sprinkle in some of the other ones. But when you're in a conversation with someone, people sometimes can feel that they're being led, and the great thing about the bond method is it's just this natural flow of being able to connect and build that relationship. And then eventually you make it to the end where you want to be. And then you discover those opportunities and whatnot that you have. Yeah. People like to jump right for them and they skip all of the other steps. So
think about it then, Chris. Think about what you just said. This is the power. If you know that, let's set the stage. Let's say you're at an event and there's a line and you want to meet one of the speakers, right? And you know that 99% of the people that are talking to this person in the hallway are literally trying to pitch them, whatever. You got to think differently and go, how can I build on something of common? How can I connect with this person at a deeper, better level, right? And so the opportunity is so big because you can stand out so fast. And I kid you not, I do this time and time and time again with people. I can stand out and connect with them so quickly because everyone else is doing the same thing.
people that follow me and understand about the company that I have called Return on Relationship, and all those things that we do within that company, and the things that we teach and the things that we do for people. I was just on a call this morning, and this is the exact thing that you're talking about. They walked into a room, and one of the key principal people in that company we're throwing elbows to get through the crowd to get to them to say, it is so great to see you guys. It's amazing. And just immediate connection right there. Now, the reason the person did that is because these guys reached out to them and did something kind for them and had sent them something and made them feel absolutely amazing and gave this whole emotional connection. And then when they walked in the room, the person literally ran up to them, giving them hugs, thanking them. And it was like that immediate connection they had. So what's great is you can create that. Building on those common things. There's great things you can do. All right, Bond, I love it. Let's talk a little bit about, you had kind of a triangle that I actually, if I can, I'm going to put that up on the screen, and I wanted to have you kind of talk and walk through that, because I think
let's hold it. Yeah, hold it off for a second until I get through it, and then
okay. All right. So I'm going to bring that up here in just a second, but why don't you continue to work your way through that, because I think you're heading us in a direction, and I want you to keep going.
Yeah. So really what it is we developed and looked at these people of influence and impact. What we realized is there was 4 levels of relational growth, right? Four levels. And so on the first level is compatibility. So if somebody's listening, you want to take notes, otherwise we'll put it up here. And when I get through it, we'll put it up on the screen.
Love it.
But the first is compatibility, right? When you're meeting somebody new, these associations that you're affirming and you're going through, you're trying to find out, is there compatibility, right? Is it at all even compatible? Meaning, I've been in events, I've been at places where it's like, obviously I'm a person of faith and maybe they're not. And it doesn't mean we couldn't be compatible, but sometimes you're just trying so hard to make this work. And it's just, if there's not compatibility, it's not going to work, right? So you move from compatibility then to connection, and you're trying to build on what are the things that you're connected. Or some people say, hey, this feels in congruence, or it feels aligned. Those are the kinds of statements they're saying, right? And what they're saying is, look, we have a connection. You and I had that really quickly when we met, right? We had lots of things in connected, lots of children that were both faithful men of faith, like a lot of things that we had in connection, right? Both businesses around relationships. So we moved quickly through compatibility then to connection. The key then from here, and this is where Bond makes the bridge to this happen, is then going to collaboration, right? And what happens is a lot of business owners specifically is you see an opportunity, and so you try to go right to collaboration. And if you have not built any kind of connection, that collaboration just probably will fall on its face. But the top level, and this is what I love, the top level is celebration. See, when you can take a relationship and you can celebrate the other person with no agenda attached, nothing, you can just literally just celebrate their success, celebrate them as a human, celebrate the things they've achieved. And now if you want to put that up, you'll see as you go up in that, you rise in the level of significance in that relationship, right? So as you move through compatibility, connection, and collaboration, when you can celebrate others. Now, let me use this, Christopher, in an example, right? I'll give you an example. There was a speaker who spoke at an event, and I really wanted to connect with them because of some potential opportunities. Like, no doubt I see the opportunity. So anyway, it was a smaller event, so it was easy to get in line and have a chat with them, right? But while I was in line and while everyone was waiting, I went on their social media and I started looking, and I found a couple of things. And I don't want to say what, because it might give it away who it was, but let's just say they had accomplished some things in their personal life right now. It was a race, right? Something they had worked towards. And I saw it on their social media. So when they got off stage and we were talking, I wanted to connect with them by celebrating them. And so I went up and I said, hey, listen, awesome job. I also speak, and I noticed you did some amazing things there. And I the sound kept dropping, and you're just a true professional. And so kudos to you. I said, but one other thing that I want to just give you credit for is, and what I think is amazing is, you did these 3 races in 90 days. And I don't know how you did that, and I'd love to learn more. Blah, 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 blah. And I went through this whole thing, and they were like, how'd you know that? And I was like, well, you put it on your social media. I looked it up, and I'm impressed. And they were so interested in talking about that versus the speech they had just given, because that's what everyone in line was talking about. And so literally he says, "Hey, will you hang over here for just a second?" "Yeah, sure, no problem." I was like, golden, right? Key, done. And so you rise in level of significance. And then, I see often people, you're great at this too. You'll celebrate people on social media, tag them in it, say, "Hey, this person just accomplished this." When you can celebrate others, celebrate your significant other and their accomplishments, celebrate your children and their accomplishments. That's when you're rising to high level of relational status.
As I look at this diagram, a lot of times you hear people, this is a phrase that's used a lot. People do business with people, or people collaborate, do business, hang out with people they know, like, and trust. And
Mhm.
it's a phrase that's used all the time. You're like, how do you get them to know you? How do you
Yeah.
get them to like you? How do you get them to trust you? And I love this path of compatibility, connection, collaboration, and celebration. Could you go just a little bit deeper on the significance arrow part, like
Yeah.
driving up that? Because I think that's really
Yeah.
super key, and I love that.
Yeah. Because, not every relationship can you treat the same, right? Because you only have limited time, resources, energy, money, et cetera. So you can't treat every relationship the same. But we think about this. I love this phrase. Are you the type of person that lights up the room when you walk in or when you walk out? And I think about that a lot, right? That phrase, because I want people when they meet me and when they're around me and when they leave, they're like, "Man, I miss his presence," because I always feel good around him. I feel like I'm smart around him. I feel celebrated when I'm around him, not in competition with him. Um, And so I think as you do that, especially that celebration piece, when you can look at ways to celebrate, and that doesn't mean you party, it doesn't mean ta-da, like, look at this amazing thing. I think sometimes it's as simple as saying, "Hey, I recognize you, I see you, I see what you're doing, I'm proud of you." I've sent text messages. Get this, I've sent text messages to friends of mine who are business owners, speakers, who are professional athletes, Super Bowl champions, US Olympians. I mean, these are people who've achieved amazing things. And I've said, "Hey, I saw you spoke at these 5 events and I watched you on stage. I just want you to know how proud I am of you as a friend because you have put so much time, effort, energy, and I have watched your evolution." So, Christopher, and you know this. I mean, I'm not telling you anything you don't know, but those people, like, they go, "Man, and I mean it. These are authentic statements. You have to mean it." And they're like, "I appreciate that." Like, because remember, they're up there stage speaking. Everyone's wanting something from them. And so when you just give to them with nothing, your hand is open from giving, your hand is open to receive. So it's a powerful thing when you celebrate others.
I love people talk about luck, how luck is, preparation meets opportunity. And I think a really big part of that preparation is doing all the things that you talked about. I mean, all the things that lead up to that pyramid. And as you do those things, as you do that preparation, when the opportunity comes and those two things come together.
When you celebrate others, it builds the trust that Christopher's talking about. And so, though, that when there's people that talk about you, right? I love this quote. It says, don't, this is what, because I have great friends, by the way. And it says, "Don't tell me what others say about me. Tell me why they felt so comfortable saying it around you." Right? That's such a tale sign of these significant relationships, really deep friendships of mine. They're not into gossiping about me. They rise above it. People aren't coming to them saying, "Oh, did you hear what Chaz did or didn't do?" Right? So
This has been absolutely great. Chess, thanks so much for being here today on the podcast. I really appreciate it. Holy cow, people. So I'm going to actually put up on the screen. I want to add to here people where they can find out more information about you.
yeah,
So
can I just reference that really quick? So
please do that. It's up on the screen right now.
yeah, this is a group we put together. So again, I'm about to publish my next book called The Impact Effect. It's been a 5-year project. What I found is that there are tons and tons of people who are profit driven, and then there's tons of people who are profit and impact driven. And I wanted a community where we could talk not just about creating profit in our business, but also creating impact and influence in the world. So I started this group, and again, I don't know when you're going to release this, but from the time we recorded this, so it's been, I think, 4 days we've recorded this, and I think by the end of today we'll have over 100 people who've already joined this in 4 days. So pretty amazing, the response of people. And we're not even really advertising it, just telling people about it, going, hey, I want to be part of a group, a community that focuses on, yes, growing our business, growing our relationships, and growing personally so that we can make the biggest impact in the world.
I love it. Great. Well, definitely everyone, you can see that down below. Definitely go check that out. Definitely, if you haven't heard of Chaz, now you have, and follow this guy. There's just so many amazing things that you're doing and books you're writing, and just, you talk about giving back. I mean, you're a guy that definitely gives back, and you pour into people and you help them, and you're a big reason. I mean, there's a lot of people that we mutually know that are very grateful for you because the success of where they've rise to.
I appreciate that.
I've been to events where people get on stage and like, I'm at where I'm at today because of that guy pointing to you in the front row or pointing to you backstage or wherever you were. So that's why I was like, I got to have this guy on Rise and we got to talk about it. So thank you so much for being here. You're a dear friend of mine, and I'm so thankful that I can say that. And really, thanks so much for being here today.
Man, I'm just honored I get to be episode 001.
Boom. I know. It's like, you gotta start, you gotta start out with the best, and we've raised the bar. So now it's like, okay, what are we going to do next? But yeah, thanks so much. Appreciate it. So stay in the green room for a second. Chaz, as we wrap things up here. All right, everybody. Thanks so much for being here. And we really appreciate you. If you're here for the first time, welcome. If you're back, welcome back. We'd love to see you and have you hear from us on the next episode. And everyone, remember, we rise together. Take care, everybody.